Hello, and today I'd like to talk about my update to the Bracer Super Shuffle. So this is all about using a enchanter, a tailor and a leather worker to get the best price possible for generating enchanting mats and then using those enchanting mats to then make enchants which you then sell for a profit. So the main gist of this I've gone through in my previous video. What I really want to do here is expand on that with now that 8.1.5 has been out for a while and most people have gotten Iwen's enchanting rod if you're an enchanter, which I really recommend you get. And what that means is that you'll get a lot more veiled crystals for your disenchants, both if you're doing any blues you'll get a random chance of getting a veiled crystal there, and then if you're doing any epics you get an increased chance of veiled crystals there, plus an increased amount of umbra shards as well. So what I've done is I've gone through my existing spreadsheet, I've updated all the numbers and the averages. Thank you to all my viewers who have helped out with collecting up all the numbers together, so we've got some decent averages, and then using those new averages we've created new strings in order to be able to work out what the price is for veiled crystals, umbra shards, expulsum and gloom dust. So what I'll do is I'll run through my use of the spreadsheet, how I use it, and what I'd be looking at with the figures and where I input all my figures. So here's the spreadsheet. It's the same as the original one. I've just added extra tabs in at the bottom. So first off here we've got a little infographic, which is an updated infographic that just goes through the general process. This is using a tailor, a leather worker and an enchanter in order to get the best price possible for your enchanting materials. So these are all the things that you buy. I've got a little TSM group that collects all these up. These are all the various things you need in order to be able to make all the different bracers. So once you bought up a stock of those, then using the spreadsheet you work out which is the cheapest bracer to make, whether it's tight spray linen bracers or shimmer scale arm guards or coarse leather arm guards. And then what you do there is you disenchant any blues and scrap any greens. If you disenchant the blues with the rod, then you'll get a chance for a veiled crystal, gloom dust and umbra shards. You give the greens to whichever characters is going to be able to make the cheapest honourable bracer. So usually this is a leather worker. So you pass on whichever bracer you got and you scrap those and you get a chance of expulsum. And you use that expulsum to make the honourable one, whichever's the cheapest out of these three. Any spare materials get sent back to the person who's making the bracers. And then those honourable bracers, which are all purple, get disenchanted with an increased rate for veiled crystals and umbra shards. And then you collect up all the veiled crystals, umbra shards and gloom dust, and you make enchants, and then you sell them for the most profit possible. So that's the summary of it. Now going into the next tab, the 8.1.5 tab, this is with the rod. So this is where you put in all your numbers and you start going through the process. What I've done here on the right hand side in green is try to show you what kind of profits you'll make if you either sell the materials or whether you use those into a further profit making thing like selling the enchants. In this central section here, under the yellow and the beige colours, this is where you start putting in your average buy price for all of your materials that you buy. That's how I'd recommend getting them all in bulk. If you don't have an average buy price, then maybe use the DB market price until you've bought enough of them. And then here you go in and you put in all the DB market prices for your materials. Now this isn't essential for all the calculations. This is only really helpful when working out a profit. If you wanted, for instance, to sell the materials back on, it's just a general way of working out what the overall worth is. And the same here, I put some of the most popular enchants in. If you put in the DB min buyout price for all of these, then you'll know what is the most profitable enchant to make out of the choice of these ones. This all gets shown in this table on the right as you work through the process. So the first step is to go through and put in all your prices here. So you're going to need an auction house. Let's get ourselves a Brutosaur. And then what you want to do is have a look at your Super Shuffle items. If you've imported this in, I'll put a paste bin to this in the description below. And if you run a shopping scan, this is the easiest way to just get a list of everything, and then you can put in the average buy price of each of these things as you see them. And you can also put in the market price. So what I usually do, if you've got two screens, it's quite easy to do this side by side. So if I move this one over here, you can actually do it on one screen if you're careful with your positioning, depending on your monitor's resolution. And then if I move this over to the right so that my tooltip shows me the items I want, don't quite see the min buyout here just yet, so let's move this across a little bit more. So I want to see these figures on the right and then move my mouse cursor to be able to do all the things on this side. So starting with tied spray linen, what I'll do here is select this cell and then hover the mouse over here so that I've got the tooltip showing, and that shows me my average purchase price, which is 4 gold 26, and then it also shows me the market value, which is currently 3 gold 28, so it's actually cheaper at the moment. And then what I'd do is Alt Tab to my spreadsheet, and then I can use the arrow keys to go up and down. So I'm not using the mouse at the moment, and that way I've got both the tooltip on the left hand side and I can start inputting numbers on the right hand side. So I'm going to go through and put everything in here. So what I'm looking for is the average purchase price, so 4 gold 26. If you want super accuracy, you can put in the 61 copper as well. So in this case I'll go 4.2661, and it'll automatically round it up or down to 2 decimal places, so it's got the internal calculation there. And then the DB market price of 3 gold 28, and then the next one, Nylon Thread, is a fixed price. I currently have it as a split between the two, depending on your reputation, what you can buy it for. So I've got mine at 52 silver at the moment, so that's a fixed price. Then Tempest Hide, all you now need to do is just move your mouse up to where Tempest Hide is, and you're still on here using your arrow keys. So you can then type in Tempest Hide, and average purchase price there is 4.1977, so I put in 4.1977, and then the DB market price is 2.37, like so. And so I'm going to go through, I'm going to put in all these numbers for each of these just to fill out what all these things are. So there we go, I've put in all the values for all my average buy prices and put in all the DB market prices. And then what I want to put it in is my DB min price for Umbra Shards, Gloom Dust and Veiled Crystals. So I'll do another shopping search for that. BfA Enchanting mats. That'll be the 3 of those. And then I want to have a look and see what the prices are currently, the min buyout prices at the moment. And then I can put those in here. So this would be the minimum I'd potentially, if I wanted to, sell these for. So that's what they currently are. And then also, over on this side, we've also got the other enchants, which will help work out what kind of profits I can see from this. So it's worth putting these in. I've got a shopping operation for all of these, so I'm going to put that in as well. I can just about fit these side by side. It will be easier to do this on 2 windows. So I'm just going to go through and put these in. I actually can't see which ones they are because of these down here. What I'll do is make this a little bit bigger here and then slide this across so I can put in the numbers here. So looking at these, I'm just going to cross-reference each of these and put in the actual figures I've got here. So we're looking at the DB min buyout of these, and so we're looking at Critical Strike 1273, Haste is in at 1989. I'm just rounding these up at the moment, not being too exact. Okay, so we've got those prices in here. So let's go back and have a look at our spreadsheet. Okay, there's a spreadsheet. So we've got all our numbers in here. So this tells the spreadsheet exactly what kind of return we can get from our average buy prices. So looking down on here, this actually tells me, is it worth it? Only just, but do step 2, also step 3. This is kind of like a typical situation because you're unlikely to use this shuffle just in the first step, making the initial braces, because that's actually a loss making those. What you really want to do is make more. You can make a profit if you do step 2. That's only if you're going to sell. So step 2 is if you sell the materials, but step 3 is actually make enchants from those, and that's where you gain the most potential profit. Looking down here, this is the average you get for 100 braces, and so if I were to sell either 4 packs of haste for 5,000 or 9 quick navigation for 6,000 profit, that's based off the materials I get from 100 braces, and that will take about, usually on average, about 13 minutes to process 100 braces. That's doing the whole disenchanting, scrapping and disenchanting again of the honourable. So in terms of working out how much time it takes you and how much profit you can get out of it for your time, this is really useful to look at on the right hand side. So if it is a profit and you're happy with the numbers, then I would suggest carrying on and doing the bracer shuffle. So then you use this section, which shows you what step the next step is. So in here, it tells you which is the cheapest bracer to make. It's telling me make Tide spray bracers, and you can see here the prices. A Tide spray bracer would cost me 45 gold versus coarse leather arm guards, which are more expensive at 74 gold, and shimmer scale arm guards are there at 67 gold. So what I do then is I'll make all the Tide spray bracers with the materials I do have, and then it tells me where I'm going to send these to for the next step. So I'm going to send the greens to a leather worker, because the leather worker is going to make the cheapest of these three, which is honourable leather bracers here, which takes the Tempest hide, calcified bones and one expulsum. That explains the process to me. You can see in here, in this greyed out section, these are the averages that we've calculated over time. So if you really wanted to work with your own averages, these are the various returns per 100 and the returns per 1 there. So that should tell you what to do and with which characters to send your various things to. And then down here, this section tells you the calculated price of your materials. I've also done a duplicate of what the prices you put in here also come down here under the DB market price, so that you can have a look at it and start cross-referencing. Okay, so Umbra shards are giving me a return of a 53 gold, and the DB market price is 69.99, so that's good, that's positive. Gloom dust slightly less here, 470 versus 5.99. Gloom dust is usually pretty cheap. Now obviously you don't have a market price for expulsum, but expulsum changes what the other veiled crystal price is here, which is based off of your honourable gear, which uses the expulsum here. So that price here feeds into this price here of veiled crystals, and it's this price of veiled crystals that we're going to use, because you get more veiled crystals doing it this way than you do with disenchanting the blues, which is this figure here. But what I'm trying to do here is actually just balance these figures up, which is what I'm using these weighting values on the right hand side for. And I've been playing around with these figures and looking at the numbers here and trying to just balance out the prices of the veiled crystals. Here it's 97 and here it's 99, and Umbra shards here is 53 and here is 55. And what I do is just change these numbers slightly and look at how the figures change here. And this is just giving me a kind of like a average figure based on all the different methods of getting things, because obviously you've got the step 1 method of getting things, which generates a price, and then you've got the step 2 method, which also generates a price, and then there's also an optional extra one if you want to get some extra gloom dust, which you're likely to want to do every now and again, because you don't get that many gloom dust from 100 bracers. You can see here you get way more Umbra shards than you do anything else. If you do 100 bracers, you get 21 veiled crystals, 48 Umbra shards and only 22 gloom dust, and a lot of enchants use a lot more gloom dust than anything else. And you'll probably find yourself with an excess of Umbra shards. If you can manage to sell those back in the market, that's great. Sometimes you might even want to do a Umbra shatter just to get some more gloom dust, but that's not maximizing your profit, so I'd only do that if you've got a huge excess of them. But the main things we're looking at here is veiled crystals and gloom dust. So if you are running short on gloom dust, what I suggest you do is, if you've got a batch of bracers, rather than scrapping those greens, just go and disenchant all those greens, because you get really good returns of gloom dust from a green. It's about average is about 9 per green. You can see the average up there. So that gives you a price of 4 gold 27. And so what we're trying to balance out is that price and that price here. So I'm using the weighting and just playing with these figures. For instance, if I increase this expulsum weighting up to 34, and you can see the prices change there. Now the veiled crystal down at the honourable bracers section has gone up to 100, and the other section has gone to 96. So I'd like to have those a little bit more balanced out. They all play off each other, so if you change one, it affects everything. So if I want to change that veiled crystal price at the bottom there, the main thing I need to change is expulsum. So I'm going to put that back down to 33. That keeps it at 99.97, which for me is about right. So once you've played with the weighting values, I wouldn't suggest doing this every time. This is basically the initial setup of what you're doing to just get all the figures working for your particular server. Because remember, everyone's prices are going to be different. This may or may not be profitable to you. So the best way to do this is to put in all these figures now, have a play with the weighting. So that's in terms of using the spreadsheet and finding out what the numbers are. We can feed this all into TSM, and I've got some strings down at the bottom here for Umbra shards, gloom dust, expulsum and veiled crystals here. And you can use these strings directly in TSM. If you do change the weighting values here, you'll have to re-import your strings because they're incorporated here, and they'll update themselves depending on what you put in here. So you can see here, expulsum at 33 is this figure down here. If I were to change that to 34, you can see that's updated the TSM formula here. So you have to make sure that you update your TSM strings if you change the weighting. I'll put that back to 33. So in order to get TSM to match your prices, what you need to do is make sure all your materials are based off of average buy price. So we go into our crafting reports and go into the materials tab on the right, and then you start searching for all the various things, like say Tide for Tide spray linen, and you click on that. And what you want to make sure that this is just set to average buy. And you do this for all your various materials, shimmer scale, mist scale, deep sea satin, and make sure everything's set to average buy. Now this obviously won't work if you don't have an average buy price, so only start doing this once you do have one. Or the other thing you could do if you're not sure is literally put in a fixed price based off of these numbers you put in here, or which could be based off the DB market price. It's totally up to you. You could just put in a fixed gold number here, and that would work just as well. But I want TSM to adapt to my prices as I buy things, so I'm going to keep this at average buy for all my materials. So you go through each of these, like shimmer scale is also at average buy, so go through and change all of those, make sure they're correct. And nylon thread I actually have as a fixed price of 52 silver, so remember you to put that in there as well. Now once you've got all those average buy prices for all of these correctly put in, you now need to do the strings for the other things, that Umbra Shards, Gloom Dust, Veiled Crystals and Expulsum. So what you need to do is you just single left click to select this cell and then Control C to copy that. Then you can go back to your World of Warcraft. What one was that? That was Umbra Shards. Okay, so we go and type in for Umbra Shards. Now I've already put this in so you can see it here, but if this was clear, so I select one way in the middle here, Control All, and then I can delete that if I wanted to, and then Control V to paste that all in. Now the thing you'll notice is there's quotation speech marks here just at the end, and those will make the TSM string invalid, so you have to make sure you delete those. So just go through and delete all of this up to the speech mark there. Now there's going to be one right at the beginning of this as well. So if you press your home button, you go to the beginning of the line, you can see one just there at the very beginning. You need to delete that one as well, and then press enter. And then that way the string will come in correctly. And then you go through and do that for all the other ones. So select Gloom Dust, Control C copy, come back here, and then in there, Control A, select all, Control V paste, and delete all the speech marks at the beginning and the end there, and delete that one, and press enter to execute that one. So once those are all in, it's worth going through and just rechecking them, because this price doesn't get updated until you've refreshed the search. So if I go back and do, say, Veiled, like that, and so this Veiled Crystal price here is coming in at 99 gold and 36 silver. So cross-reference that with your value that you got here. So we've got 99.36 here, and I've got 99.36 there, so that's correct. So go through and just double check all these prices are correct. So you will, with Veiled Crystals, you're looking at this one down here. Umbra Shards, you're looking at this one up here. Gloom Dust is here, and Expulsum's here. These other ones, this Veiled Crystal one here, and this Gloom Dust one here, and this Umbra Shard one here, are more for reference. In fact, I'll grey those out to make it more obvious. There we go, I've made those a lighter colour now. So the ones that are the slightly deeper colour are the representative values you want to look at here. So if we were to look at Expulsum, type in EXP for Expulsum, 110 gold, TSM's telling me, and here my spreadsheet is telling me 110. So go through, just double check all your prices, and you'll make sure that everything matches. So TSM thinks the same profits are going to be had. So what you can do then is you can start playing around with the figures. You can say, okay, well, what happens if I manage to get Tide spray linen for, because look at that, the DB market price is 3 gold 28. What happens if I manage to buy Tide spray linen for 2 gold 50? And you can use the spreadsheet to have a look at this and say, okay, that's definitely worth it. Return for per 100 Tide spray braces is 2,700, which means a 975 profit there, which means total return, not taking into account enchants you can make thereafter, is 3,500. And then if you go down here into this section, the best profits here for 4 packs of haste would be 6,000 gold, or 9 quick navigations would be 7,300 gold. So this is just a suggestion of what you could make. What I would really suggest you do is make whatever's in a profit. So go into your enchanting, have a look here, see which ones are in a profit, and then make sure you craft a good amount of each of them so that you've got a good spread over the whole market really. And then sell as much as you can, as often as you can, depending on the sale rates, and you should hopefully make lots and lots of gold. So that's a basic run through the entire process. You can use the spreadsheet on its own, you don't have to use the TSM strings, or you can fully integrate it into TSM as well and start using it to make enchants at the best price possible. Now, as I said before, you're likely to end up with more Umbra shards than you need. I'm not sure exactly what to do with those, other than potentially try selling those on the market, maybe make a few stacks of them, but they are quite pricey to list, so watch out for that. But the main thing you're really focusing on here is getting enough veiled crystals to make the decent enchants up at the top here, the weapon enchants and the pacts, and make a good spread of them and try and get as many sales in as you can depending on your server. All servers are different, so this may or may not work for you. And also don't forget to factor in the time it takes to do this shuffle. It's a whole 13 minutes to process 100 braces. You can get a little bit more efficient with it depending on how many you do in bulk, but it can be incredibly tedious to do a huge amount of them. So I wouldn't suggest doing this if you don't find it fun. Remember, you're supposed to have fun playing this game. So that's the new shuffle with new enchanting rod included in there. So feel free to take a copy of the spreadsheet. You don't need to request access or anything like that. You can simply just go into the Google Sheets and take a copy of it. All you have to do there is go File, Make a Copy, and then you'll get your own version. Or you can even download it yourself in a different format if you want to use it yourself. Totally up to you. You're more than welcome to take a copy and use it as much as you like. I've got some other tabs here which I was using for the calculations for my formula, and this is the original one that I did in the original video. So these strings are if you haven't got the rod, but I really wouldn't recommend doing it now because you'll be working with people who have got the rod. And then these are some of the averages we got for various things from tailoring and from leatherworking and a few others. And there's a little infographic just to help out with sort of visualizing how it works. So I really hope you found that useful, and hopefully for your server with your prices, however you've managed to get your materials and whatever you're doing with your enchanter, tailor and leatherworker are using this to make lots of gold. So I'll put links to everything in the descriptions below. You can ask any questions you like on my Discord channel, or if you want to catch me live on Twitch or leave a comment below, more than welcome to ask any questions and I'll answer them as best I can. So until next time, happy gold making, and I'll see you very soon.